What if everything you've ever known about reality is a lie? What if you could step out of the life you're living right now and into a completely new one, one where the struggles, limitations, and obstacles you face don't even exist? This isn't science fiction. It's quantum jumping, a groundbreaking method that taps into the very fabric of existence, allowing you to transcend this reality and jump into alternate versions of yourself. What if I told you that the life you've always dreamed of already exists in another reality, and all it takes is the right understanding to access it? In this audiobook, you'll discover the hidden secrets of quantum jumping, a phenomenon that could unlock infinite possibilities and give you the power to literally escape the life you're stuck in and create the one you were always meant to live. Prepare yourself to challenge everything you thought you knew about time, space, and your own potential. Are you ready to break free from the chains of this reality and step into the life you've always dreamed of? Type "I am ready" in the comments and take your first leap into a new timeline. Your quantum shift begins now. Let's begin the journey. Chapter 1. The Forbidden Laws of Quantum Navigation. Reality is not a fixed system. It behaves more like a responsive field that reflects what you quietly validate within yourself. Most people think they're stuck in one life because they haven't learned the secret architecture beneath reality's surface. What governs the ability to jump from one version of life to another isn't wishful thinking or force. It's a silent code, a hidden collection of laws that are rarely spoken about because they don't behave the way conventional logic expects. These laws are not about morality or behavior. They are permissions embedded in consciousness itself. If these laws are broken, the shift collapses. If they are understood, reality bends. The first law is the law of selective existence. This law reveals a subtle truth. You don't experience reality as it is. You experience what your inner framework permits to exist. That means an entirely different version of you may already be real somewhere else, but if your current state does not authorize it, you'll never feel it, see it, or touch it. Possibility, by itself, has no power. It's authorization that activates it. Think of it like having multiple doors, but only the ones you internally approve of are capable of unlocking. This isn't about belief in the usual sense. Belief can still be surface level. Authorization runs deeper. It's what you grant access to without needing evidence. It's what you allow to become solid without demanding it to prove itself. Everything else stays invisible, even if it's inches away. The second law is the law of inaccessible proof. When a quantum jump truly happens, the most obvious thing that disappears is the trail that could prove it occurred. This is not a failure of memory or observation. It's part of the design. A true shift modifies your personal thread of reality so subtly that the evidence that you were once someone else or you were once somewhere else dissolves as the jump completes. That's why the real proof of a quantum shift cannot survive inside the new timeline. It's not lost, it's disallowed. If proof were allowed to carry over, it would rupture the coherence of your new timeline and drag contradictions into it. The universe prevents this by sealing the memory, disguising it, or wiping it entirely. What this law teaches is that expecting confirmation after a jump is misunderstanding how the structure works. The cleaner the jump, the quieter the memory of the old version. The third law is the law of velocity collapse. This law governs the tempo of movement between realities. The more desperate or urgent your attempt to escape a current life, the more the desired reality recedes. This is not a punishment. It's an energetic counterweight built into the system. High desperation increases the density of your current timeline, making it harder for lighter frequencies to lock in. If you try to force speed, you drag friction into the field. That friction folds time in a way that makes the jump harder. It's a paradox. The more you try to rush into the next version of yourself, the more you entangle yourself in the present one. The jump, therefore, is not about acceleration. It's about precision. Velocity is not your ally unless it is matched with alignment. When the pressure to jump outweighs the readiness of the timeline, the bridge collapses. The fourth law is the law of outcome fluidity. Many people imagine their future self like a statue, static, waiting, permanent. But no version of your future is fixed. It bends, dissolves, reforms with every minor shift in your internal calibration. That means the future you desire is not just out there waiting. It is being continuously reformed or erased based on your micro-decisions. These decisions aren't always conscious. Sometimes it's the tone in your self-talk or the tilt in your emotional expectations. These subtle cues shape the coding of the next you. The law reminds us that outcomes are not destinations. They are frequencies. When you interact with your future as though it's unchangeable, you trap it. But when you treat it like liquid, it responds by reshaping into higher forms you hadn't predicted. Flexibility opens doors that planning can't. The fifth law is the law of boundary disobedience. This law shatters the illusion that the limits you perceive are actually solid. What you often treat as an unbreakable rule or barrier is usually just an unexplored path disguised as a limit. The system of reality protects its deeper mechanics behind apparent boundaries, not to hide them maliciously, but to ensure only those willing to disobey what seems final can access more. Boundaries aren't real in the way you think. They are tests, veils, filters. If you approach reality as if all its walls are final, you obey a system that was never meant to rule you. But if you treat every impossibility as a potential mislabeling, the forbidden becomes accessible. This law doesn't ask you to break the world. It asks you to refuse the hypnotic obedience to its appearance. These 5 laws are not theories. They are structural principles that invisibly govern the movement of consciousness across realities. You cannot jump without obeying them. And you cannot trick them. They respond to internal precision, not performance. If any of these laws are ignored, the jump either fails or creates instability. And what makes them forbidden is not that they are hidden from books. It's that they are incompatible with how people are trained to think. That's why they remain invisible to most. They don't hide in shadows. They hide in plain view, waiting for someone to stop obeying the surface rules long enough to see what's really holding their reality in place. Chapter 2. The Hidden Doorways of Your Identity. There is something living underneath your choices that most people never recognize. It's not your personality, your habits, or even your thoughts. It's your identity, a quiet, powerful signal that tells reality who you are, and more importantly, what kind of reality is allowed to respond to you. Identity is not just a label or a name you carry, it's a frequency you emit. And this frequency behaves like a lock. It either opens the way into a new version of life or silently denies it. You don't walk into new experiences because of effort alone. You walk into them because your identity says, "This belongs to me." If your identity doesn't hold that signal, the experience cannot attach to you. It remains unreachable, not because it's too far, but because you never tuned into the version of yourself who could live it. Most people don't realize that they are walking around with fractured identities. What you think is you is often a patchwork. Bits of what others told you to be, roles you had to perform, masks you put on to survive. Over time, this mix becomes normal, and you forget that the core version of yourself is buried beneath it. This is the fractured avatar. It looks complete on the outside, but on the inside, it carries pieces that don't belong together. When your identity is fractured like this, reality gets confused. It receives mixed signals. One part of you says, "I want expansion," while another says, "I don't deserve it." One piece longs for change, but another part clings to safety. These inner contradictions block access to timelines that require a clean signal. The new reality never fully appears, not because it's not real, but because your composite self cannot hold the access key. Inside your inner world, there are hidden constructs, structures that feel like your personality, but are actually gatekeepers. These gatekeepers are parts of your identity that stand at the threshold of potential outcomes. They don't speak loudly, but they are firm. These parts say things like, "You're not ready," or "People like you don't get to live that life." And because these voices sound like you believe them. But they aren't the real you. They're the residue of beliefs absorbed long ago, beliefs that have shaped what you think is possible for someone like you. These gatekeepers decide whether a new timeline becomes visible or stays sealed. And because their decisions feel like your own voice, you don't question them. You assume reality is closed when, in truth, your inner gate has not been unlocked. These constructs don't need to be aggressive to be effective. Sometimes they work through quiet hesitations, subtle doubts, or invisible ceilings you didn't even know were there. What's rarely understood is that the version of reality you experience is not something you step into. It's something you generate. You don't find new timelines, you create them from within. Your identity isn't a passenger, it's the source code. It writes the version of the world that appears to surround you. This means your daily life is not just influenced by your identity. It is your identity in motion. If your dominant self-concept is that of someone who must struggle to earn value, then your timeline will match it, not because of punishment or fate, but because that's the only version your current identity can output. You're not waiting for a different version of life to find you. You're living in the version that your inner identity already considers normal. That's why trying to chase new outcomes without shifting identity is like expecting a mirror to show a different reflection while you remain the same. What surrounds you is the broadcast of who you've been believing yourself to be. Change the signal, and the scene rearranges. Beneath every decision, every hope, and every frustration is something few people ever examine: the hidden permission script. This script lives inside your identity. It's the unspoken yes or no you carry about what is allowed to happen to you. You can desire anything, imagine anything, even visualize it in vivid detail. But if the permission script inside your identity says, "This isn't for you," then reality will not cross that line. And most people never notice the script because it's silent. It operates like background code in a machine. It doesn't announce itself. It simply blocks certain outcomes from ever entering your field. These blocks don't feel like walls. They feel like just the way life is. But it's not life. It's your internal script shaping what's allowed. You might even say aloud, "I want abundance," while the permission script quietly responds, "Not yet." Or you might push toward a relationship or opportunity while the script says, "You haven't earned this." Identity doesn't need to shout. Its quiet permission system holds more power than all the surface-level action in the world. What makes identity so powerful is that it doesn't need external force. It is its own engine. Your dominant self-concept sends a clear signal that tells the field of possibility which versions of life are compatible with you. If a potential timeline doesn't match that self-concept, it fades out like static. That's why repeating the same behaviors or trying new strategies often fails. You're still operating from the same foundational self-definition, and until that shifts, nothing on the outside can truly lock into place. The external world doesn't need convincing. It only needs coherence. And coherence begins with who you quietly understand yourself to be when no one is watching. The strange part is that identity often hides behind routine. You don't see it directly. You feel it in the shape of what your life keeps repeating. It lives in the moments you say, "This always happens to me," or "I guess this is just how things are." But these patterns are not random. They are expressions of an identity being confirmed, not by belief, not by intention, but by the quiet authority your self-concept holds over your field of experience. The moment you shift that self-concept, not by pretending, but by subtly replacing the old frame, the entire timeline shifts its rhythm. Not because the world changes, but because the world has always been shaped by the hidden doorways inside your identity. Chapter 3: Timeline Erosion and the Power of Disbelief. Reality, in its most basic form, is shaped by the beliefs you hold. Your experiences and outcomes are fueled by the things you believe to be true. What many fail to recognize is the power that lies in the simple act of withdrawing belief. When you stop feeding your reality with your conviction, it begins to lose its grip on you. Beliefs act as the fuel that sustains the momentum of your experiences. They form the structure that holds everything together, like the foundation of a house. If you were to withdraw belief from these foundations, the house begins to crumble. When belief is withdrawn, it is like cutting the power supply to a machine. It simply stops functioning. This doesn't require effort to create a new reality. It only requires a removal of the fuel that keeps the old one alive. The more you stop feeding your existing beliefs, the faster they begin to decompose. This mechanism of belief withdrawal is the foundation of timeline erosion. Your life, as it currently stands, is entirely constructed on your beliefs. If you stop reinforcing them, the structure begins to disintegrate. A powerful method to collapse the old timeline is through the strategic introduction of contradictions to the facts you hold true. These contradictions don't need to be loud or drastic. They just need to create a crack in the belief system that holds your reality together. Reality itself is not as rigid as it may seem. What you consider a fact is merely a belief that has been reinforced over time. By introducing contradictions to these facts, whether through new perspectives, unexpected events, or shifting your own understanding, you create instability. It's like poking small holes in the walls of a dam. Over time, the pressure builds, and eventually, the structure begins to falter. When you introduce contradictions in strategic ways, you destabilize the continuity of your current experiences. Things that once felt certain or solid start to shift, causing your reality to lose its coherence. It's a subtle process, one that doesn't require grand gestures, but rather a consistent questioning of the truths you've relied on. As these truths lose their grip on you, the old timeline begins to break down, leaving space for something new to emerge. After you've begun the process of withdrawing belief and destabilizing your current reality, there is often a delay before the changes fully manifest. This delay, known as the belief echo, can be deceptive. When you remove a belief, the world doesn't instantly reflect that removal. Instead, it often continues to mirror the old belief for a time, almost as if reality is trying to hold on to the old version of you. This is not a sign of failure. It's simply the echo of the previous belief still reverberating through the structure of your experiences. It's like pulling the plug on a device, but the screen continues to display images for a moment before it fades out. The timeline you've been living in still operates under the influence of your old beliefs until those influences completely dissipate. During this period of delay, it's important not to mistake the echoes of the old reality for failure. The world may continue to reflect remnants of the old timeline, but this doesn't mean the erosion hasn't begun. The timeline will continue to peel away layer by layer, and eventually the new reality will take its place. The delay is simply the final remnants of an outdated belief system working its way out of your experience. One of the most potent tools in the process of timeline erosion is inserting false assumptions into your reality. These false assumptions don't need to be rooted in any particular logic or truth. In fact, they can be completely arbitrary. What matters is the effect these assumptions have on the continuity of the reality loop you find yourself in. Reality loops are cycles that repeat themselves based on the beliefs you continually reinforce. If you always believe that things happen in a certain way, then they will. But by inserting an assumption that contradicts the loop, you create a break in the cycle. For example, if you believe that you are destined to struggle financially, inserting the false assumption that wealth and abundance are already a natural part of your experience can disrupt the loop. Even if the assumption isn't true in your current timeline, the mere act of entertaining this false idea introduces uncertainty into the reality you've been experiencing. This interference disrupts the loop, causing it to lose its strength and eventually collapse. False assumptions act like cracks in the system that slowly weaken the structure of your reality. They create the space for new possibilities to enter, and over time they help to fracture the repeating patterns that keep you locked in the same experience. As disbelief begins to spread, you will witness something extraordinary: the decomposition of your reality. This is the point at which the layers of your current experience begin to peel away, one by one. It's like watching the skin of an onion unravel, layer by layer, until you reach the core. The layers of your timeline, which were once solid and firm, will begin to lose their substance. The things that once seemed important or unchangeable will start to disintegrate. Relationships, jobs, or even entire areas of your life that once held significant meaning may begin to lose their relevance. This process of decomposition isn't always comfortable, as it can feel like parts of your identity and experiences are being stripped away. However, this is the necessary process of releasing the old timeline to make way for the new. The more disbelief you introduce, the more layers you will witness dissolving. It can be unsettling at first, but it is an essential part of the transition. When these layers begin to break down, you are not losing something valuable. You are simply clearing away what no longer serves you, making room for the new version of reality to emerge. Chapter 4. The Collapse Point of Unchosen. Selves. Every person carries within them a multitude of unchosen selves, versions of themselves that were never fully realized or brought to fruition. These are the paths that were left untaken, the dreams abandoned, and the potentials never explored. Often, we look at our current reality and think that we are the sum of all our decisions, but in truth, we are a conglomerate of countless choices that we never made, lives we never lived, and identities we never fully embodied. These unchosen selves, though not realized in the physical world, still exist on a quantum level. They leave behind energetic residues like footprints in the sand, which linger in the field of potential. These residues represent paths not taken but still accessible, versions of ourselves that can be reclaimed, re-engaged, and reintegrated into our lives. The energetic residue left behind by these lost timelines is not static. It is a latent source of power. When you begin to recognize that every abandoned version of you still holds a vibrational signature, you realize that these remnants are not gone forever. They are simply waiting for you to reawaken them. This residue is like a dormant energy waiting to be retrieved and reintegrated into your current timeline. It's as if parts of you have been scattered throughout the multiverse, and now you have the ability to call them back into your life. When you tap into this energetic residue, you can reclaim the power that was once locked in these lost versions of yourself. The key to retrieving this energy lies in your ability to recognize its existence and to allow yourself to receive what was once denied. These past versions of you are not gone. They are simply dormant, and you can bring them back to life by reconnecting with them. Within these lost timelines are unrealized talents and unexpressed potential. Every choice you made or failed to make left behind talents, gifts, and abilities that you never fully explored. This unrealized potential exists as a kind of quantum noise, a background hum in your energy field, waiting to be turned into action. The unrealized aspects of yourself don't disappear. They continue to exist as potential that is simply not activated. This quantum noise is often the source of what might feel like a nagging, unexplained yearning or dissatisfaction. It's a part of you that has never had the chance to unfold fully, a talent that has remained dormant because you never chose the path where it could shine. But this dormant potential is not lost. It is a resource, a well of energy and ability that can be tapped into when you choose to claim it. As you step into these unexpressed talents, you activate a new level of creativity and power within yourself, a force that was always there but was never allowed to come forward. The more you connect with these latent talents, the more you transform the quantum noise into real, actionable power. As you begin to reclaim these abandoned selves, you may experience what is known as the collapsing phantom effect. These ignored versions of you, though they were once energetic potential, begin to decay over time. They may appear as faded fragments or as echoes of past choices, but they are no longer as solid as they once were. Their energy starts to collapse and decay, much like an abandoned building crumbling under neglect. However, the collapse of these versions does not mean that all their energy is lost. On the contrary, this decaying energy can still be recycled and reintegrated into your current self. Even though the paths those versions of you might have taken are no longer accessible in the same form, The energy they once carried is still potent. This energy can be repurposed and reconfigured, allowing you to recycle the power of what was abandoned and use it to fuel your current trajectory. The collapse of these abandoned selves can be seen not as a loss but as an opportunity to reclaim the power that was once discarded. It is the process of taking energy from old, unused paths and channeling it into your present life, creating a new source of momentum for your future. In the realm of the unchosen selves lies a hidden reservoir of genius, what might be called the unmanifested genius reservoir. This is the vast pool of untapped brilliance that resides in the versions of you that never came to be. Each unchosen path contains within it a piece of your potential genius, a spark of creativity, insight, or talent that was never brought into the light. These are the what-if versions of you, the person you could have been had you made a different choice, taken a different risk, or followed a different desire. These unmanifested selves hold vast stores of untapped power, waiting for you to re-engage with them. By reclaiming these paths and bringing them back into your life, you access a new level of genius that was always there, hidden behind the veil of past decisions. The genius that was never fully realized in the past is not gone. It is simply waiting for you to choose it again. This hidden reservoir of creativity and innovation is yours for the taking. It is only by revisiting these unchosen paths that you can unlock this dormant power and bring it into the present moment. As you step into these lost versions of yourself, you enter a process of energetic recovery and alignment. The recovery spiral begins when you accept and embrace a previously rejected path, allowing the energy associated with that path to flow into your life. When you reclaim a part of yourself that was once abandoned, your energy begins to spiral upward. This upward spiral is a process of realignment with your higher potential. The more you accept these unchosen selves, the more your energy harmonizes with your true path. This is not just about retrieving lost parts of yourself. It is about realigning with the fullness of who you are. As you integrate these previously rejected paths, you begin to experience a flow of energy that propels you forward in a new and more powerful direction. This recovery spiral creates a momentum that brings you closer to your highest expression, allowing you to live in alignment with your true potential. By embracing what was once left behind, you unlock a new level of power and transformation, spiraling upward into a more authentic version of yourself. Chapter 5. The Architecture of Parallel Environments. Our reality is often perceived as a mirror, reflecting our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. However, this understanding falls short when we begin to recognize that the outer world is not simply a reflection of our inner world. Instead, it is an intricate, layered structural interface, an environment that responds and shifts in response to the changes we make internally. The structures and spaces around us are not fixed. They are fluid, responsive, and malleable to the alterations in our perception and energy. When you change your vibrational state, the architecture of your environment also shifts, aligning itself with your new state of being. This shift is not just a change in perception, it is a structural transformation that occurs at the very level of the spaces you occupy. These spaces, buildings, streets, and environments are not neutral backdrops to your life. They are interactive, dynamic, and intertwined with your energy and consciousness. They function like an interface that adapts and responds to the energetic changes you make, creating a fluid and responsive reality where the boundaries between you and your surroundings begin to blur. One of the most striking aspects of this interaction is the presence of what can be called spatial-time keys, specific locations or places that hold time-linked imprints of alternate timelines. These places are not just physical spaces. They are imbued with energetic signatures from past, present, and future versions of reality. The moment you step into a place that holds one of these keys, you are stepping into a nexus where alternate timelines intersect and merge. These imprints can be triggered through your presence, your energy, or your awareness. Spatial time keys are unique in that they contain echoes of parallel worlds waiting to be unlocked. This is why certain places may feel familiar or uncanny when you visit them. There's a sense that something is happening beyond the visible, beyond the logical. Your experience of these places is not just a product of your memory or imagination. It is a direct interaction with the energetic residues of other timelines. The imprints left by these timelines are embedded in the fabric of these spaces, and when you enter them, you may inadvertently tap into these parallel environments, feeling the shift in your perception, the activation of new experiences, or the opening of new possibilities. In addition to these spatial keys, your movement through different environments leaves subtle environmental echoes, what can be called environmental echo transfers. When you shift to a new reality or timeline, even if it's just a subtle change in your experience, your environment subtly changes as well. These shifts are not always overt or dramatic, but they leave behind fingerprints that are detectable if you are attuned to them. You may notice slight changes in the atmosphere, shifts in the light, temperature, or tone of a room that signal you have moved into a different layer of experience. These environmental echoes are like residue from your transition, marking the spaces you pass through as you move between realities. Often, the shift is so subtle that it's easy to dismiss as coincidence or imagination. However, once you become aware of these patterns, you can begin to recognize them as signs that you are navigating multiple layers of reality. Your outer world is not just a fixed, static entity. It is a dynamic, constantly changing landscape that responds to the changes you make within yourself. The environmental echoes you leave behind are like markers, signaling the shift from one parallel reality to another, indicating that the world you inhabit is far more complex and responsive than you may have ever realized. Objects, too, play a crucial role in this architecture. Certain items have the power to act as stabilizers or destabilizers between timelines. These are object-based portals. These objects hold unique energetic signatures, sometimes rooted in your personal history or in the collective history of your environment, that allow for movement between different versions of reality. Some objects may serve as anchors, keeping you tethered to a particular timeline, while others may act as gateways, allowing you to move freely between alternate versions of reality. These objects are not magical in the conventional sense, but they hold a particular resonance that interacts with the fabric of space-time. The simple act of holding, touching, or using an object can create a bridge to a different reality, enabling you to experience a different version of yourself or of the world. The energy these objects carry can either facilitate a smooth transition or cause disorientation as they create a disruption in the normal flow of your timeline. This power is not always immediately obvious, but it becomes apparent when you begin to notice the role that certain items play in your life, acting as both anchors and gateways to parallel environments. As these shifts in reality occur, they are often accompanied by a noticeable change in the atmosphere, what could be called an atmospheric memory shift. These shifts are characterized by changes in light, tone, and sensation, and they are indicators that you have moved into a different dimension. They are not products of your imagination, but rather clues that the very fabric of the reality around you has shifted. Light may appear more vibrant or subdued, the tone of your surroundings may change from warm to cold or vice versa, and the sensation you experience within a space may alter dramatically. These shifts are not just random fluctuations. They are part of a larger, more complex system of interwoven realities. When you experience an atmospheric shift, you are not simply imagining a change in your environment. You are interacting with a multidimensional system that is responding to your energy and awareness. These shifts are like markers that signal the presence of a new layer of reality, a new dimension that has been unlocked through your awareness and your shift in perception. The more you become aware of these shifts, the more you can consciously navigate between parallel environments, recognizing the subtle changes as signs of new possibilities unfolding around you. Finally, there are certain architectural shapes and forms that inherently disrupt fixed timelines and accelerate shifts between realities. These geometric interruption zones are spaces designed by the inherent properties of certain shapes, angles, and structures. Certain geometries have the unique ability to break apart fixed timelines and facilitate the acceleration of dimensional shifts. These shapes and structures are not merely decorative, they are powerful tools that influence the flow of energy and reality itself. The more you become attuned to these geometries, the more you begin to notice how they affect the spaces you inhabit. Some buildings, rooms, or even entire cities may be designed with specific geometric patterns that cause subtle but profound shifts in the flow of time and experience. These interruption zones are powerful catalysts for change, breaking up the continuity of your current reality and opening doorways to other timelines. The geometry of a space can act like a key, unlocking a new level of awareness and perception, allowing you to step more fully into the multidimensional experience of existence. Understanding and working with these geometric patterns can help you navigate the complex architecture of parallel environments, giving you the tools to consciously engage with the shifting structures of your reality. Chapter 6. Quantum Anchoring Through Physical Ritual. The concept of stabilizing and solidifying a chosen timeline may seem abstract, yet it is deeply grounded in the interaction between intention and physical action. The practice of quantum anchoring through physical ritual is a means by which you can actively influence and anchor your reality. Rather than allowing external forces to dictate your experience, rituals allow you to play an active role in shaping the trajectory of your life. These rituals, which involve purposeful physical actions, create an alignment between your inner world and the outer one, turning your intentions into grounded, tangible experiences. The core of this process lies in the physical act itself. When your body moves with a clear and focused intention, you become a conduit for energy that shifts the very fabric of your reality. These movements are not just motions. They carry encoded information, a symbolic message to the universe that signals a decision has been made, a timeline has been chosen, and you are now committing fully to that path. One of the most profound ways in which this anchoring occurs is through symbolic kinetic transfer. This refers to the practice of using deliberate, purposeful movement to transfer your state of being between different realities. The body, often thought of as merely a vessel for the mind, is actually a powerful transmitter of energy. By moving in specific ways, whether through dance, gestures, or ritual, you encode your physical actions with intent. Each movement becomes a bridge that connects your current state to the timeline you wish to embody. These physical gestures are not just symbolic, they carry real energy, imprinted with your will. When you move in a particular way, the energy of that motion resonates with the frequency of the reality you wish to anchor. It's like sending a signal to the universe, a clear message that your intention is to shift into a new space, a new timeline. The very motion of your body becomes a powerful tool that influences the quantum fabric of your existence, facilitating the change you seek. In conjunction with this, certain temporal sealing gestures can be performed to seal your position in the desired timeline. These gestures are ritualistic actions that act as markers, securing your place in the timeline you've chosen. Think of them as metaphysical locks that you create through physical actions. Each gesture is a deliberate step that reaffirms your commitment to this new reality. These rituals, when done with full presence and intention, hold the power to close off other timelines or possibilities, anchoring you firmly in the one you've selected. The more you engage with these temporal sealing gestures, the more your energy aligns with the timeline you've chosen, making it progressively harder to be pulled back into alternate versions of your life. These rituals, done with mindfulness and reverence, act as stabilizers, ensuring that you remain grounded in the reality you wish to manifest, solidifying your chosen path and preventing unnecessary shifts or distractions. Along with these actions, certain objects can be imbued with frequency to act as reality lock objects. These objects hold significant power because they serve as tangible anchors, reminders, or symbols of your chosen reality. By imbuing them with your energy and intent, they become much more than just material objects. They act as energetic anchors, holding the frequency of your desired timeline in the physical world. When you interact with these objects, whether by touching, looking at, or carrying them, you are essentially reinforcing your connection to that timeline. They serve as constant reminders that your choice has been made and that you are aligned with your new path. These objects become energetic signatures imprinted with your will, ensuring that you remain rooted in the reality you are manifesting. The more you use these objects in your rituals, the stronger the anchor becomes, creating a solid connection between your intentions and the material world. Somatic synchronization is another key component of quantum anchoring. This involves aligning your bodily motion with the outcomes you desire. Your body, often viewed as separate from your mind or spirit, plays a crucial role in the manifestation process. When your bodily movements align with the energy of your chosen timeline, it helps to fuse your nervous system with the frequency of that reality. The mind and body, though often seen as separate, are deeply interconnected. By engaging in physical actions that resonate with your desired timeline, you create harmony between the two. Somatic synchronization acts as a way to harmonize your internal system with the external shifts you wish to manifest. When your body moves in ways that reflect the energy of the new reality you are stepping into, it becomes easier for that timeline to solidify and take root in your life. The more you practice this synchronization, the more seamlessly your body and mind will align with the shifts you are making. Finally, ritual timecode activation is the practice of performing your rituals during specific moments of the day that hold unique access points for solidifying your shifts. These moments are not arbitrary, they are times when the energy of the universe is most conducive to your desired changes. By engaging in rituals during these key times, you harness the natural flow of energy, amplifying the impact of your ritual and anchoring your intentions more effectively. These time codes can be connected to natural cycles, such as the rising or setting of the sun, specific lunar phases, or even specific times of day when you feel most aligned with your goals. When you choose to anchor your ritual during these moments, you align your personal energy with the greater flow of the universe, ensuring that your actions are aligned with cosmic timing. These moments act as power windows, amplifying the potency of your ritual and facilitating a smoother transition into your chosen reality. Through the practice of quantum anchoring, you gain the ability to interact with the fabric of your reality, using physical rituals as a means of stabilizing and solidifying your chosen timeline. These rituals provide you with the tools to bridge the gap between intention and manifestation, turning abstract desires into concrete experiences. By using symbolic kinetic transfer, sealing gestures, reality lock objects, somatic synchronization, and timecode activation, you can align your internal and external worlds, creating a seamless integration between the reality you choose and the one you experience. The more you engage in these rituals with intent and presence, the stronger your connection to your chosen path becomes, making the transition smoother and more powerful. The outer world begins to respond to the energetic shifts you initiate within, stabilizing and reinforcing your chosen timeline. Chapter 7. The Traveler's Mind. Thinking Across Realities. The concept of thinking across multiple realities is a fascinating one, as it suggests the mind has the potential to access and process different dimensions of existence simultaneously. This ability is not one reserved for extraordinary individuals, but is available to anyone who chooses to expand their mental capacity and train themselves to think beyond the limits of linear time and space. The traveler's mind is a state where the mind can fluidly navigate between different timelines, holding multiple versions of reality at once, and integrating them into a cohesive, non-contradictory thought process. This is a skill that requires a deep awareness of how thought functions and how one can actively influence it to support the exploration of various realities. By developing this skill, you open up the ability to simultaneously live in different dimensions without getting lost or overwhelmed by the inherent contradictions and complexities that arise when multiple timelines intersect. The foundation of this mind expansion begins with simultaneous outcome cognition, which allows you to entertain contradictory realities without causing mental collapse. In everyday life, our minds are used to thinking in a singular direction, choosing one reality over another. When faced with two competing outcomes, the mind often defaults to a linear or logical approach, favoring one over the other. However, when you cultivate the ability to hold multiple realities at once, this instinct to select one path dissipates. Instead, you develop a sense of balance that lets you perceive different possibilities simultaneously without confusion or mental strain. This ability allows you to see how various outcomes exist in parallel, with each path having its own set of circumstances, influences, and consequences. You begin to understand that every choice you make in one timeline creates a branching of possible realities, and that these choices exist simultaneously. This mindset shift allows you to view life as an open field of possibilities, where no single outcome is fixed or definitive, and where multiple realities can coexist in harmony. Building upon this, reality braiding logic is a crucial skill for the traveler's mind. It involves the ability to merge conflicting thought patterns into a coherent path that spans across dimensions. Rather than viewing conflicting realities as separate and unmanageable, you learn to weave them together, finding a thread of logic that makes sense in the context of multiple timelines. This process allows you to look at contradictory perspectives and combine them in such a way that they form a continuous, flowing narrative. Reality braiding logic works like a weaving loom where different threads of experiences, ideas, and perspectives are intricately intertwined, creating a new fabric that transcends individual realities. As you learn to braid these threads, your mind becomes more adaptable, moving fluidly between worlds without losing a sense of purpose or direction. The contradictions that might otherwise cause confusion or cognitive dissonance begin to make sense within the broader framework of your multidimensional experience. However, the ability to hold these multiple perspectives requires an advanced form of perceptual rejection override. The human mind has an innate tendency to reject unfamiliar realities or ideas that seem out of place or illogical. When faced with something outside of its usual understanding, the mind instinctively resists, often perceiving it as a threat or anomaly. In the context of dimensional travel, this rejection mechanism can be a significant barrier. To think across multiple realities, you must first be able to override this instinct to reject new and unfamiliar concepts. This means learning to embrace the unknown without judgment or fear. You begin to realize that every new reality, no matter how different or strange, is just another facet of existence waiting to be explored. By pushing past the initial resistance and embracing the unfamiliar, you train your mind to remain open and flexible, capable of integrating new realities without forcing them into a narrow framework of understanding. This override process is essential for breaking down the mental walls that limit your perception and for opening up new pathways to higher dimensional thinking. Once you've mastered the skill of overriding your initial rejection response, you develop the ability to access mental parallel access points. These points are mental doorways that allow you to directly access real locations in alternative timelines. Your thoughts are not simply internal events, they are active points of connection to other versions of reality. These access points are activated by specific thought patterns or intentions that resonate with the frequency of a particular timeline. Through these points, you can shift your awareness to alternate versions of yourself, to parallel versions of your life, or to different locations in time and space. The mind is not confined to the present moment, but is capable of opening doors to other dimensions through focused intent. When you engage these access points, your mind serves as both the navigator and the vehicle, allowing you to move between timelines with ease. These mental doors are always present. They simply need to be consciously unlocked through intention and focus. Once you understand how to access these points, you can begin to consciously move between realities, experiencing them as real and tangible events, even if they exist outside of your usual perception of time. The final element of the traveler's mind is outcome partition thinking. This skill involves the ability to compartmentalize different potential outcomes without confusion or fear. In most human thinking, outcomes are seen as all-encompassing. If one possibility is realized, the other options are discarded or forgotten. However, with outcome partition thinking, you learn to keep multiple outcomes open and distinct, without allowing them to collide or interfere with each other. This ability allows you to consider different futures or realities without feeling overwhelmed by the complexity or emotional weight of these possibilities. Each outcome exists independently, and you're able to hold these possibilities in separate mental compartments, each with its own set of circumstances. By compartmentalizing these outcomes, you can explore different paths without feeling lost or uncertain. This mental flexibility allows you to hold the potential for different futures without letting any single one dominate your thinking or emotions. You can think of it as having multiple options in a game where you can explore different strategies but never feel constrained by the outcome of any one choice. As you begin to develop these mental abilities, you gain the ability to think like a multi-dimensional traveler, capable of holding and navigating multiple realities simultaneously. This requires a shift in how you perceive thought itself, a recognition that thought is not confined to one single reality, but is an active tool for accessing and shaping various dimensions of existence. By cultivating the traveler's mind, you learn to think beyond the limitations of linear time, embracing the full spectrum of possibilities that exist across alternate timelines. This mental agility not only allows you to move between realities, but also enhances your understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, as you begin to see how each reality is linked and interwoven with countless others. Chapter 8. The Silence That Shifts. Dimensions. Silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is a potent force capable of reshaping reality itself. Often overlooked in the pursuit of spiritual and dimensional exploration, silence contains the ability to shift dimensions, open new timelines, and create portals that words and thoughts cannot access. When we think or speak, we engage with the linear, structured world of time and space. Yet, in moments of pure stillness, we transcend these constraints, allowing us to enter a realm where the usual laws of existence do not apply. This is the silence that shifts dimensions, the space where awareness alone is sufficient to unlock the mysteries of the multidimensional universe. One of the most profound aspects of silence is its ability to activate stillness initiation points, which are areas of total silence that trigger dimension-bridging energy. Normally, the act of thinking or emitting any kind of thought or emotion creates a barrier to higher dimensional access. Thought, as powerful as it is, operates within certain boundaries. It is a force grounded in the structures of time and space. However, when we cease thinking, when we suspend mental activity entirely, a different kind of energy begins to emerge, one that is not confined by the linear structures of the mind. This energy, which is typically blocked by active thought, serves as a bridge to alternate dimensions. The power of stillness unlocks these initiation points, enabling us to move beyond the confines of our current reality. As the mind quiets, the energy of the silence becomes the catalyst for a new level of awareness, allowing us to slip seamlessly into alternate timelines, accessing realities that were previously out of reach. In this state of pure silence, we activate a phenomenon known as the void response field. When we stop emitting thought or emotion, a space of emptiness is created within our awareness. This void is not an empty nothingness. It is a fertile ground for alternate timelines to rush in and fill the vacuum. Think of it as the natural flow of water into an empty vessel. When there is no longer the resistance of thought or emotional charge, the energy of other dimensions can effortlessly flow into our awareness. These timelines are always present, surrounding us like an invisible web, but they remain hidden or blocked by the noise of our mental and emotional activity. In the absence of this activity, the veils between realities become thin, and alternate possibilities rush in to fill the gap. This is why moments of complete stillness are often the times when breakthroughs occur, when a sudden insight or shift in perception leads to the discovery of a new timeline or reality. Silence also opens up the possibility of wordless reality absorption. Certain timelines cannot be accessed through logical thinking or verbal communication. The very nature of these realities requires a nonverbal form of entry, one that bypasses the limitations of thought and language. Words are symbols, representations of meaning that exist within our linear understanding of the world. However, there are dimensions that exist beyond this symbol-based system, where the essence of reality cannot be captured in language. In these dimensions, reality must be absorbed directly, not through the intellect, but through a form of pure, nonverbal awareness. It is in silence that we gain access to this kind of absorption. By quieting the mind and ceasing all verbal activity, we allow ourselves to merge with the frequency of these timelines. Rather than analyzing or interpreting them with thought, we absorb them directly into our being. This wordless absorption opens up an entirely new dimension of experience, one that exists beyond language, beyond thought, and beyond the limitations of linear perception. Another intriguing aspect of silence is the emergence of pre-thought guidance pulses. These are subtle, instinctual pulls that we feel before we consciously think about something. In moments of total silence, we become attuned to these pre-thought cues, which serve as the earliest access points to alternate timelines. These pulses are not thoughts in themselves, but they represent the subtle energy currents that precede mental activity. They are like the first spark of a flame before it is fully ignited, or the whisper of a breeze before it becomes a gust of wind. In these moments of silence, we can feel the pull toward certain timelines, certain outcomes, or certain directions before our thoughts take over and try to rationalize them. These guidance pulses are the universe's way of directing us, guiding us toward the paths we are meant to explore. When we learn to tune into them, we access a deeper level of awareness, one that moves beyond the noise of the mind and into the subtle currents of existence. Lastly, silence can lead to silence-induced displacement. This is the phenomenon where shifts in reality occur spontaneously when we enter prolonged stillness. It is as though the very act of remaining silent for an extended period of time creates an energetic shift that causes us to move between timelines without any conscious effort. This displacement is not something that we can control through force of will or mental effort. It happens naturally when the mind and body are in a state of deep stillness. During this time, the mind is no longer actively selecting or projecting a reality. Instead, it is in a receptive state, open to the full spectrum of possibilities. This stillness acts as a trigger for spontaneous shifts in perception, where we find ourselves suddenly aligned with a new timeline or reality. These shifts are often subtle at first, as they occur beneath the threshold of conscious awareness. However, over time, the more we embrace the power of silence, the more we become attuned to these shifts, learning to navigate them with ease. The key to understanding the power of silence in shifting dimensions lies in recognizing that words and thoughts are not the only tools we have for interacting with reality. Pure awareness, free from the constraints of thought and language, holds its own power to unlock hidden realms and alternate possibilities. When we enter the state of complete stillness, we remove the mental filters that prevent us from accessing higher dimensional realities. In that silence, we connect directly to the underlying fabric of existence, where timelines are fluid and interconnected, waiting to be explored. By embracing the silence that shifts dimensions, we open ourselves up to a world of infinite possibilities, where the boundaries between realities are porous, and where pure awareness becomes the key to navigating the vast landscape of existence. Chapter 9. Collapse the Mirror. Exit the reactive self. True freedom lies in the moment when we can look at ourselves and the world around us and no longer be at the mercy of external reflections. For most of our lives, we have been conditioned to respond to the world through reactions, reacting to feedback, reacting to others' emotions, and even reacting to our own internal thoughts. These reactions shape the course of our lives, often leaving us trapped in a cycle of constant feedback loops that reinforce who we are and what we believe. In this chapter, we delve into how to collapse the mirror, the external world that we look to for validation, and step into a space of true freedom where we no longer wait for reality to reflect us back to ourselves. Instead, we become the generators of our own reflection, creating our identity and reality from within. One of the key elements in breaking free from the reactive self is learning to activate the mirror disconnection code. This code involves severing the connection between our sense of self and the external world's constant feedback. Throughout our lives, we have been taught that our worth, identity, and experiences are shaped by how others see us, by the events that happen around us, and by the feedback we receive from the environment. This creates a dependency on external validation, where our internal world is constantly being influenced by the feedback loop of mirror reflections. To disconnect from this, we must learn to stop seeing the world outside ourselves as a source of instruction or confirmation. When we break the tie with external validation, we shift our internal narrative, allowing us to redefine ourselves without relying on what others or the world reflect back to us. The mirror disconnection code is not a single act. It's a process of unhooking ourselves from the belief that we need external feedback to tell us who we are. As we begin to loosen our attachment to these external mirrors, we become free to evolve on our own terms. Once we have disconnected from these external reflections, the next step is to establish a non-reflective self-origin. This is the process of developing an identity that does not rely on the external world for input or validation. Our sense of self in its most authentic form is not dependent on what we think others believe about us or how we perceive external events. Instead, it comes from a deep inner knowing that we are the creators of our own essence. When we no longer need feedback from the outside world to shape who we are, we can access a more authentic, liberated version of ourselves. This self-origin allows us to evolve without interference from external perceptions. It is an identity rooted in the understanding that who we are is an ever-evolving creation, not something that needs to be defined or confined by the external world. This process requires that we stop looking outward for validation and instead turn inward to draw from our own internal wellspring of knowing and creation. By doing so, we begin to live more freely, without the need to constantly adjust or react based on what is reflected back to us from the world around us. As we move further into this state of self-mastery, we begin to build what can be called the trigger immunity architecture. This is an internal structure designed to neutralize any emotional provocations from the external world. For most of us, triggers exist because we are still attached to certain reflections or reactions from the world. When someone or something challenges our sense of self, we react, often emotionally, because we still view these triggers as threats to our identity. The trigger immunity architecture is a system of internal boundaries that neutralize these emotional provocations instantly, so they no longer have power over us. When we stop reacting to external triggers, we begin to live from a place of inner calm, no longer swept away by the tides of emotional reactivity. These triggers are often reminders of the still active connections to external reflections, so by neutralizing them, we free ourselves from the cycle of emotional volatility. Instead of reacting to what happens outside of us, we learn to stay rooted in our internal power, where nothing outside of us can disturb our peace or sense of self. At this point, we start to experience the power of creation before confirmation. For most of our lives, we have been conditioned to wait for evidence before taking action or stepping into new possibilities. We wait for the world to reflect back to us that we are on the right path, that we are successful, or that we are worthy of something before we commit. However, this waiting for external confirmation keeps us stuck in a loop of dependency on the outside world. True freedom arises when we learn to create first, before any evidence appears. Creation. Before confirmation means stepping into a state where we generate our own energy signatures, our own possibilities, and our own realities, independent of any external feedback. Instead of waiting for the world to provide us with proof or confirmation, we create the energy we need and trust that reality will align with our inner creation. This is a shift from being reactive to being proactive, where we no longer rely on the world to show us what is possible, but instead move forward, knowing that our internal energy will shape the outcome. By taking this step, we move beyond the need for external validation, stepping into a space of infinite possibility where our inner vision is enough to manifest the life we desire. Lastly, we break free from the feedback delay loop, a pattern that holds us back by making us believe that reality has to confirm our state before we can take further action. In many cases, reality seems to lag behind our internal state, meaning that what we create internally doesn't immediately show up in the external world. This lag time often causes people to doubt themselves or the process, making them feel as though they need to receive feedback from reality before they can continue. However, true freedom is in realizing that the external world is always catching up with our internal state. When we exit the feedback delay loop, we stop waiting for reality to reflect us before we act. We understand that what we create internally is already the first step in bringing it into being, and we no longer need the world to validate our path. By stepping out of this loop, we gain full access to the power of creation, where we are no longer trapped by the timelines of external feedback. Instead, we create our own timeline, manifesting our reality from the inside out. In collapsing the mirror and exiting the reactive self, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of reaction and dependency on the external world. We no longer look to others or external circumstances to define who we are or to dictate our course of action. We become the creators of our own experience, shaping our realities through internal power and vision, independent of any reflection from the outside world. Conclusion. Throughout this audiobook, we've journeyed through the profound principles that guide our reality. From mastering the art of multidimensional thinking and recognizing the silence that shifts dimensions, to breaking free from the reactive self and embracing your innate power, each chapter has revealed a path to living beyond the constraints of linear thinking. You've learned to access alternate realities, neutralize external triggers, and create from a place of deep internal knowing. This journey has equipped you with tools to collapse mirrors, defy the conventional feedback loops, and unlock the immense freedom that resides within. The power to shape your reality is now firmly in your hands. Congratulations! You've completed this transformative audiobook. If this content resonated with you and sparked something deep within, now it's your turn to make it happen. Like this video if you're ready to embrace the power of creation. Share it with others who need to hear this message, because when you share, you help others step into their own power. And subscribe to ensure this journey continues, because when you subscribe, you're locking in your commitment to explore even deeper layers of your reality. Like, share, and subscribe. Each action is a step toward fully embracing your potential.